Yes.
Don Walker,
Yes.
Tony Kirby,
Yes.
Tony Cook,
Yes.
Dan Durham.
Yes. Okay, we'll go ahead with the minutes of tonight's meeting. We just called the roll, so we know we're here. We'll skip past that. Does any board members have any concerns, questions, or if not, a motion?
Mr. Chair, approve the minutes of the April 8th meeting as presented.
Support. Have a motion by Mr. Walker, supported by two of us. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have agenda review and approval. We have 6 cases tonight. Do any of the board members have any feeling about these, whether we need to make any changes?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Thank you. Support. Motion by Mr. Flood, support by Mr. Cook. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Before we start, we don't have a real big gallery yet. I don't know whether we're going to keep it small like this or not. We're going to use the 3 minutes for public comment that are allotted to this board in our bylaws. We have a long agenda, and there are some people sitting right at the bottom of it. So rather than them have to wait while we endlessly go over the same things, if you come up for public comment and you'll be offered the opportunity, please have it in your head what you want to say and try to get it out in 3 minutes. And that's all that I'll ask you to do, and we should get along just fine. Thank you. That having been said, let's call the first case, AB 2024-10, Randy Jett at 1411 Elkhorn Lake Road, Sidwell 09-10-329-005. Applicant is seeking one variance from zoning ordinance 78, zoned R3, Article 6, Section 6.04, Number 1, is a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10 feet for a detached garage to be 0 feet from the property line to the north. Do we have an applicant? Come on up, please. Introduce yourself and let us know what you'd like to do.
Hi, I'm Randy Jett. As you stated, I'm looking for a variance. I bought the property 3 years ago. There was an existing garage there, a two-car garage, and it's against, there is a city easement between, my neighbor here, Paul Allen, is with me to the north. There's a city easement of 8 feet. I'm looking to just put it back to where it was, or roughly within a foot of where it was, to put a 22-foot garage. And the reason I'm asking for the variance is if you come in 26, 27 feet, the other side, it gets into my septic access points. It'll get on top of them, and I won't be able to get into access to the back of the property. So I'm kind of wanting to just replace the garage that was there, that when I bought the property, the city had condemned. So I took it down within about a month of buying the house.
So bearing in mind that easement that you mentioned, if you are successful, you will still be 8 feet from the neighbor's property line, correct?
It'll be 8 feet from the neighbor's property.
Thank you. Board members.
I did look at your property, Mr. Jett. I appreciate you having it marked out. It was very clear. I went by there today. It's my understanding that you have an engineered septic system there, so you definitely have to have access in order to service that system. Is that correct?
Yes, everything to the left, you see how elevated it is, and that's all the engineered septic field.
Thank you.
Did anyone come in tonight specifically to speak to this case? Come on up, introduce yourself.
While you're here, come on.
I'm Paul Allen. I'm his neighbor. I live at 1153 Elkhorn Lake Road. I'm just here to support my neighbor. There was a garage there, it was condemned, and it's true he's just looking to replace, what he had.
That's good. Thank you for coming in. That helps.
Mr. Jett, is there a shed on the property?
Yeah, there's a shed now. It's
Is that
movable.
shed going to stay?
I'm in the plans if this gets approved, with the garage, I'm gonna just take the shed. He's trying to talk me out of selling the shed, but put it on the back of the garage itself. So the shed's 16 feet wide, But the garage I'm proposing is 22, so I was gonna put it in the back and have it face, which there's no variance problems with that. It's just going closer to my house.
Would
Why
you,
don't you hang out in case somebody else got it?
Okay.
You're not getting off that easy.
could you move it 6 inches off the lot line, or you gotta be right on the lot line?
Honestly, when I put the shed there, like I said, it's movable. I'm gonna probably bring it in a foot or so anyway, just so I can put garbage cans and stuff along there. So, when I was working with Lynn, she said, you go in, it's your, this is the worst case scenario. So if, I'm realistically gonna probably move it in about a foot, just to give myself some access to get along there. You saw the wall today when you're out there. I got some things there, it's just a little too tight, so.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to note that the fire chief has given a report and has no issues with this.
Thank you. It looks to me like what you want to do is fairly simple, and it will improve your property. And you're not going to be obtrusive right on the neighbor's lot line. You're going to be over a little bit. And there's this neighbor that you're going to be next to, and he doesn't seem to have a problem with it either. So it doesn't sound to me, and I'm only one vote, but it doesn't sound to me like this should be much of a problem for you.
Okay.
Am I gonna do a feedback, or is it, if I'm hearing the humming?
Probably air handling, I would guess.
No, I'm getting it too.
No, or maybe we get a feedback over our microphones or something. I just want, it's not me.
No, I hear it, but it sounds like it comes from back.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Walker,
make a motion.
please.
In the matter of ZBA case AB 202410, Randy Jett, 1141 Elkhorn Lake Road, parcel 0910329005, I would move that the applicant's request for one variance from zoning ordinance number 78, zoned R3, Article 6, Section 6.04, a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the required 10 feet for a garage, for a detached garage to be 0 feet from the property line to the north be granted for the plans date stamped received March 8th, 2024, because the applicant did demonstrate that the following standards for variances have been met in this case, and that they set forth facts which show, in this case, that the petitioner does show a practical difficulty. He indicated that when he purchased the property, there was a existing garage in disrepair that he had torn down. So basically, what he's doing is replacing that garage that was there. And in addition, he's going to move the shed around to the back of the garage. I think that's what you said.
Yes, that's what I'm.
Somewhere in that vicinity.
And the actual garage will be back about 10 feet
Right.
from the road from where it was originally.
And because of the condition, and a lot with the septic, this variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right possessed by others in the same zone or vicinity, and also that these are exceptional circumstances applicable to this property that do not necessarily apply to other properties in the same district. And in addition, the granting of this variance would not materially be detrimental to the public health or materially injurious to the property, especially with the information presented by the fire marshal, or to improvements in such zone or district in which the property is located.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Walker, supported by Mr. Kirby. Any further discussion by the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Tony Cook,
Yes.
John Walker,
Yes.
Mike Flood,
Yes.
Tony Kirby,
Yes.
Dan Darrow.
Yes. Your request passes. You're on your way.
All right, thank you, sir.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you, board. Appreciate it.
Next case is AB 2024-11 XL Fireworks LLC, temporary use permit for an open-air business at 664, 666, 668, 670, 674, 678 684, 686, 688, 690, 694, 698, 700, 702, and 704 South Lapeer Road, Sidwell 09-11-428-011. Per zoning ordinance 78, Article 30, Section 30.11, F1B, petitioner is requesting a temporary use permit for an open business to sell consumer fireworks from a tent June 23rd of 2024 to July 5th of 2024. Gentlemen,
That is correct. Good evening. My name's Jeff Guy. This is Tim D'Amico. We're the owner of XL Fireworks. This will be our third year of doing sales there.
okay. We have your drawings, your information. Is the layout going to be similar to other years?
Yes.
What about it this year is going to be different? You must have figured something to tweak a little bit.
No, everything's gonna be similar to that it's been before. We're not tweaking anything. Everything's exact same. Everything's been working good. We had no problems, nothing.
Well, Mr. Goodlow would know, are you aware of any negativity in the last 3 years?
No, none at all with this.
With the amount of traffic and business that you do there, that's huge that you've got it nailed down to that point.
Correct.
And it's obvious that you know how to do it.
Yep.
Board members, Ms. Flood.
Oh, my only comment is I like asking Mr. Goodlow if there's been any violations, and with this applicant here, 0. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that you're doing a
Thank you.
job out there.
Chair, I'd like to think that you were the only two people in this township that are happy with the additional traffic. Because you'll get more traffic this year
Right,
than you had that
right,
or
correct.
the year before.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman? Just a curiosity question, there will be no mobile homes, RVs, or anything with anybody
Nope.
living on site?
Nope.
Just like in the past?
Right, yep.
Perfect.
And as in other years, you won't open without a fire inspection?
Oh, correct, correct. All inspections will be done prior to opening.
The underwriter laboratory, that
Yep,
kind of stuff?
yep.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone in the audience come to speak to this matter? Thank you, seeing none.
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion on this case, if we're all done deliberating on it.
Go ahead.
Okay. I move that in the matter of ZBA case AB 2024-11 XL Fireworks temporary use permit for an open-air business at 664, 666, 668, 670, 674, 678, 684, 686, 688, 690, 694, 698, 700, 702, and 704 South Lapeer Road, Sidwell number 09-11-428-011, that the petitioner's request for a temporary use permit from zoning ordinance number 78, Article 30, Section 30.11 F1B, to open and run an open-air business, specifically fireworks, be granted. The applicant would be using the property for a permitted purpose, and have demonstrated that they will be complying with the required conditions for an open-air business. Conditions of approval are as follows: that there be no other open-air business for fireworks within 1 mile, and there are none. That the applicant will provide phone numbers to the building department of contact people that can be reached any time of day or night. The hours of operations will be between 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. June 23rd, 2024 through July 5th, 2024. Articles will be secured in a storage pod or something similar after hours.
Right.
The applicant will provide the township with a current copy of their liability insurance listing Orion Township as an additional insured. The applicant will provide the township with a copy of their Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs Consumers Fireworks License. Fire department approval will be required prior to opening. and the applicant must provide a $1,000 cash bond for reinspection of the site once the operation has been removed. Approval is for the plan's date stamp received March 28th, 2024. That's my motion.
Support.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Flood, supported by Mr. Kirby. Do we have anything additional by the board? Mr. Cook, do you have anything? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mike Flood,
Yes.
John Walker,
Yes.
Tony Kirby,
Yes.
Tony Cook,
Yes.
Dan Durham.
Yes. You're all set. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. You have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question, Dave,
Thank you. Next case, we have AB 2024-12, Kim Allard / Allied Signs for Hyatt House at 95 Brown Road, Sidwell 09-32-378-075. Applicant is seeking one variance from sign ordinance 153, non-residential wall sign, zone BIZ. A variance for 3 additional wall signs, in addition to the one allowed, for a total of 4 wall signs totaling 186.37 square feet, 2 on the south elevation, 1 on the west elevation, and 1 on the knee wall. Introduce yourself, please, and
Yep, absolutely. My name is Aiden Calabat, from Calabat Engineering on behalf of the owners. We also have our representative from Allied Signs, the applicant. Business address for the record is 31333 Southfield Road, Suite 250.
okay, what I would like you to do for my own personal happiness here.
Yes.
I went to that site 2 different times, and I stood across the street, and I had my drawings, and I'm looking. And I didn't come away with a clear idea of where you want to put these things.
Absolutely. So,
Maybe everybody else nailed it. I didn't, though, so any help would be good.
yeah, I can definitely elaborate. So, if you look at the tall tower section, you've got basically like the 2 bands, the facade facing Brown Road, and the other facade that would be facing ultimately like Baldwin, as you're looking that high up. So basically, the brand standards is to have, they've got this branded ephes that kind of comes across that corner, and they've got the signage on the 2 opposite ends of that banding. So you see it on both of those elevations, way up high. So those are the 2 main building wall sign elevations for signage. There's the 3rd sign in the application, which is would be the 2nd sign on what they call the north elevation, I believe. That's if you're down looking from the parking lot, looking back at the building, again, with Brown Road to your back. In the front, on the 1st floor, there's like a masonry screen wall around the patio, right there at the front corner of the building. There's an outdoor patio right there that connects to the lobby of the hotel. So on that low wall there's a brand standard for an H-bar sign. H-bar is the Hyatt bar inside, is the food service that's inside the bar, or inside the lobby of the hotel. So that H-bar sign is basically on this knee wall or screen wall, as you would, that comes around the side of that outdoor patio there. I believe that if you were there, I believe that screen wall is up, correct, Dave? That wall is up in front of there. So there's that, it's kind of a curved screen wall right at the front corner of the building, close to the driveway approach.
So to simplify it again, you're going to have 2, if I'm hearing and understanding, you're going to have 2 signs. If I'm standing in the middle of Brown Road looking at your building, there are going to be 2 signs visible from there.
Correct. One way up at the top that says Hyatt House is the brand standard sign. And then the H bar, it literally says the letter H and bar. It's a black kind of neonish sign, is like down on this little screen wall. And it's just to advertise that they have that amenity inside the hotel.
Is this a corporate sign setup?
Corporate standards, yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
And then to elaborate, there's one more sign. So those are the 3 of the 4. The 4th sign is actually a monument sign that's at the front approach of the hotel on the side of the approach. The reason it's classified as a wall sign is throughout that whole area for the Brown Road Innovation Zone, you have the zoning ordinance requires a knee wall feature at all your entrances and intersections. So given that we have this knee wall that's right there at that entrance to the site, we kind of, instead of building a monument sign in front of that or nearby it, we combine them. So it's classifying the ground sign as a fourth wall sign. So there it gets your 4 signs.
It's built right into the knee wall, correct?
It's built right into the knee wall. Yep,
In,
exactly.
in lieu of a monument.
In lieu of a monument sign, exactly. Yep.
And I'm noticing here, Mr. Chairman, that there's a note that all 4 of these wall signs will not exceed 200 square feet. So even with 4 of them, they're sticking with under what is in the ordinance.
No, I thought he clarified a lot of things that were questions for me, so, thank you.
Appreciate that.
I think we're all kind of familiar with that area, how that road is set up, and that is quite a congested area. And I noticed if you're, especially if you're coming off I-75 and you're going to go north on Baldwin, you're going to turn right and east to go to the hotel. You're coming out of a curve, a blind curve, and all of a sudden, boom, the hotels are on the left. I mean, it comes right on you fast. And then coming the other way, you're coming down the hill, entering that curve, and I have no problem with this signage. And I'm glad it stayed underneath the total allowable with the, our ordinance. And also, I like the concept of the sign being built into the required knee wall, that you don't have to put a monument sign up. I mean, that's, I think it's a good thing.
Mr. Goodlow? Is there not also going to be additional buildings behind that Hyatt? Or right in that general area?
Maybe east and west of it, but to the north, I think that'll be a little bit.
So would it be a fair statement that the signage is actually going to help people understand where they need to go to get into that hotel?
Yeah, no question.
Okay. So it is a matter of also directing traffic, which is a matter of public safety.
We also have that hill there as well.
Yeah.
And to get in there, if you're heading east on Brown Road, you're gonna have to immediately get into that turn lane.
Yeah.
And there's not, once you get around that curve, that turn lane's gonna be right there, the entrance. Boom. Yeah. That's a safety feature, I think.
Agreed, because you come down that road too when you want to turn on that.
Do we have anybody in the audience that came specifically to speak to this matter? Thank you. Mr. Walker, you got anything?
I'm hoarse from the last motion I made.
And I wouldn't think that you need a lot more talking out of that to get you hoarse, Mike.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Walker.
in the matter of ZBA AB 202412, Kim Allard Allied Signs for Hyatt House, 95 Brown Road, 0932378-075, I'd move that the applicant's request for one variance from sign ordinance number 153, non-residential wall signs, zone biz district, one, a variance for 3 additional wall signs in addition to the one allowed, for a total of 4 wall signs totaling 186.37 square feet, 2 on the south elevation, 1 on the west elevation, and 1 on the knee wall, be granted for the plan's date stamp received April 5th, 2024, because the applicant did demonstrate that the following standards for variances have been met in this case, and that they set forth facts which show that in this case, the petitioner does show the following practical difficulties. This is a variance from the number of signs, but nowhere near the amount of signage that would be possible on a building of this size. It is a hotel. It is hard to see because of the hill, because of the angles of the road from when you're turning onto Brown Road from I-75. The variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property right possessed by other people in the same zone or vicinity, and the granting of the variance or modification will not materially be detrimental to the public welfare or materially injurious to the property or to improvements in such zone or district, in which the property is located.
Support.
The end, okay. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Walker, supported by Mr. Flood. Do we have anything additional by the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Tony Cook,
Yes.
Tony Kirby,
Yes.
Don Walker,
Yes.
Mike Flood,
Yes.
Dan Darrow.
Yes, you're all set.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
One question to the applicant.
Yes, absolutely.
What's your opening date you got planned? What are you looking at? What's your target?
September 19th.
Thank you.
is current one. Yep.
Very nice
I
packet,
get
by
asked
the
that
way.
all the time, so, thank you.
We're hoping to stick to that. No changes.
All right. Thank you.
Next case is AB 2024-13, Robert Dupel at 407 Walden Meadows Court, Sidwell 09-26-102-002. Applicant is seeking one variance from zoning ordinance 78, zoned R2, Article 27, Section 27.05H1, a 15-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 0 feet to erect a 4-foot fence 15 feet from the rear property line to the south. Introduce yourself, please, let us know.
Yep. Hi, I'm Robert Dupel. I live at 407 Walden Meadows Court. Looking to install just a black aluminum metal fence all the way around my property. My house does back up to Walden Road. So I'm installing the fence for dog, kids, keep away from the road, allow them to play and take a little peace of mind. The reason for the variance is my house backs up to, it's not actually a sidewalk, it's a service road, apparently. And then also, the 15 feet specifically is there's a hill coming off that service road to get to my property. So instead of the fence going up the hill and stopping right along the service road or the sidewalk, I'm just having it come into my property, 15 feet. Still maintaining the 4-foot, I don't want a 6-foot privacy fence or anything like that. Just bringing it in so it's level and flat all the way around the house.
I'm certain you know this, but you will have to maintain the property on the other side of the fence.
100%, yep.
Thank you. Board members.
I got a question for Mr. Goodlow.
Yes.
When I saw this, I thought it was a typo. I thought 4-foot fences were allowed on the property line in their ordinance.
Oh, it specifically says 4-foot press fences must be located on the property.
Yeah, it was a little,
That we need to look at.
Oh, I see. So he's asking for a variance not to be on the property line.
yeah, I'm actually just
That's
asking
the
to
first
come,
time I had
Crazy world we live in.
that is okay.
I'm just trying to come into my property, actually.
Yeah, it's like,
You can make it 6 foot, and we wouldn't even have.
that's what I thought. I thought it was a typo at first. I said, wait a minute. Okay, that clarifies it.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Kirby.
I was out, visited the property. I see exactly what you're talking about there. Is that fence going to be inside the trees?
Just on the outside of it.
Okay,
Yeah, right, yeah, you saw that big giant boulder?
Oh, yeah.
I have that moved, but that's essentially right where it's going to be.
okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm ready to make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
So in terms, I understand the hill is there, but you're here
Oh, yeah.
because you don't want to encompass that area?
Yeah, I honestly just don't want the fence to go up on an angle, and I don't need it. I'm just gonna keep it flat and clean up under the trees and just keep the fence level.
So you have a small dog then?
I have a small dog, yeah. Yeah, 25 pounds, yeah, and the kids are small, I don't need that, a little extra, and I think it would cause more problem. I don't need it to be right on top of the sidewalk either. People walk that, and it doesn't need to be right on top of it.
When you talk about enclosing your property, you're talking going to the front now and then
Yes,
curb and, okay.
yeah, not past my house, just right to the side of it, not past the,
Yeah, I was thinking, when you said enclose your property, I'm thinking the entire property line.
oh, no, not going in the front or anything,
Okay.
just up to the side of my garage. So I have a fence. The fence will be on the property line on the sides, right on the property line, just the back. I didn't want to put it right on the property line. I didn't know it was
It's going to meet the rear of your house, is what you're saying?
this is the rear, yeah, that,
Oh, where the fence will stop. Will it come midway to your house, or where will it stop? Once you're coming, you're
Down.
on the property line and you're on the, say, the east side,
yep.
and you're going to go how far from the trees forward?
Oh, to the edge of the front of my house.
To the front of your house?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Flood.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I wish the 6-foot fence would put it 15 feet, at least 15 feet off their property lines instead of 0 feet. Just a comment on the 6-footers.
Do we have anybody in the audience that came to speak to this matter?
That one.
Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman, I'm willing to make a motion if there are no other questions or comments.
Mr. Cook, you all set? I'm good. Okay, Mr. Kirby, please.
In the matter of ZBA case number AB-2024-13, Robert Dupel, 407 Walden Meadows Court, Sidwell number 09-26-102-002. I would move that the applicant's request for one variance from zoning ordinance number 78, zoned R2, Article 27, Section 27.05, H1, 1, a 15-foot rear yard setback variance from the required 0 foot to erect a 4-foot fence at 15 feet from the rear property line south be granted. For the plans, date stamped received April 5th, 2024. Because the applicant did demonstrate the following standards for the variance have been met in this case, that they set forth facts which show in this case that the petitioner's practical difficulty due to the nature of the yard and the nature of the grade going into the back of the hill being steep enough, and the addition of the pine trees would make it impractical to have a fence put directly on the property line. The following exceptions and extraordinary circumstances or conditions apply to this property involved that do not generally apply to other properties in the same district or zone, or again, the topographical issues that come with that property. The fact that the HOA has approved the material also allows for the variance for the preservation and enjoyment of the substantial property rights and possessed by the other property owners. They all have the same, if they're building the same material. Granting this variance will not, the granting of this variance or modification will not materially be detrimental to the public welfare or materially injurious to the property or improvements in the zone or district in which the property is located. It will actually improve the value of the property and maintain a safety factor for the walk path that is there.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Kirby, supported by Mr. Walker. Have anything additional by the board? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mike Flood,
Yes.
Don Walker,
Yes.
Tony Cook,
Yes.
Tony Kirby,
Yes.
and Durham.
Yes. Motion passes. You're on your way.
Thank you
Good
very
luck, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Have a great night.
Next case, AB 2024-14, Carol's LLC for Lapeer Road Burger King at 1155 South Lapeer Road. Sidwell number 09-14-226-011. Applicant is seeking one variance from zoning ordinance 78, zoned GB. Article 14, section 14.02A1 is a 21.66 foot speaker box variance from the required 100 feet from residentially zoned property for speaker boxes to be located 78.34 feet from the property line to the east. And two variances from sign ordinance 153, non-residential wall signs. A variance to allow one additional wall sign above the one allowed for a total of 2 wall signs totaling 164.25 square feet, 32.82 square foot, plus 131.43 square foot. The second is a 14.73 square foot variance above the allowed 10% entry elevation wall area of 116.70 square feet for a wall sign to be 131.43 square feet. You gentlemen, introduce yourselves, please, and let us know what you'd like to do.
Okay, Ron Natus. I'm an attorney from Farmington Hills and appearing on behalf of Carroll's LLC. And with me is Pat Mahoney, our architect. And Yupanine, sorry, go ahead, introduce yourself, Yupanine.
I'm Yupanine with Mannequin Smith at 607 Shelby Street, Suite 300.
Do I remember seeing you folks before?
A bunch of times.
So for the record, kind of deserve that a little bit. We've been here before. Now, I'm a little off my game here because I had planned to plug in and be able to walk through some slides with you. And
I could get you plugged in.
oh, you can push the button? Thanks.
You just need to hook onto that.
I did, yeah, we're hooked.
What's that say? What,
Okay.
the cord should have something on it.
Blue?
Yeah, what's it say on there?
It says podium HDMI.
Just hit podium HDMI on.
Over here, okay. Podium, projector, boardroom display.
Do I have to do this too?
Don't hit the ejection button.
Podium HDMI.
That's it.
Yeah, now when you get right over there, I can do it.
There we go.
Very nice. Okay. Okay, so as you know, that we're here for the Burger King restaurant, and you know that we've had some fits and starts on this project. The site plan was originally conditionally approved a little less than a year ago, and at the same time, the Planning Commission also approved a special land use permit for a double drive-through. Unfortunately, that plan and the store design proposed was not workable for a number of reasons. And by the end of the year, last year, Carroll's had to go back to the drawing board. By then, Burger King was beginning to roll out a new store design reflecting a new and more sophisticated and upscale look for 2024, and Carroll's was willing to invest more to bring that new model to Lapeer Road store. It's called the Sizzle model and was suggested as appropriate for the Orion Township store. The rest of the site is very much the same as what was conditionally approved last year. In fact, the drive-through, as now proposed in our 2024 site plan approval application, places the drive-through lanes in the exact same location as was shown in last year's conditionally approved site plan, with the speaker boxes in the exact same location. For some reason, in the first go-around, we were not required to seek this variance, the one that we're seeking today. So it turns out that the speaker box that is most easterly, that is closest to the neighboring residential property, is 78 feet from the property line, which doesn't meet the ordinance. The current, what I'm showing on the screen now is the current site configuration, and actually the speaker box for the single drive-through is only 91 feet from the property line. So it's been out of compliance for a very long time. Now, what I'm showing here is an overlay of the neighbor's site plan, the Ponds property, the Ponds multifamily to our east, and you can see at the bottom the red is an overlay of our current plan, and what's significant here is a couple of things I want to point out. First of all, the boxes are, in fact, I'll go back to our original site plan. The boxes are oriented this way, right toward the back of the property, sort of perpendicular, right in line. And if you go to the overlay, you'll see that that line heads straight for the detention basin. So we aren't really having speakers into anybody's backyard or anybody's window, but it's still less than 100 feet. We'd also point out that, of course, the distance in the direction of the multifamily building is going to be more than 78 feet. And we thought we'd give you the measurement to the corner, the back corner of that closest building, and it's going to be 140.92 feet. I also want to point out that there is landscape buffering on our side of the property. Part of our landscape plan includes a new tree right in line with the angle where any sound at all could go. And if you look on the pond site plan, they too have landscape buffering on their side, if that was really a problem. The truth is that the only aspect of this that strikes us as potentially problematic is that sound transmission. We assume that that's why there's the 100-foot buffer for the residential. And what we've tried to do is, science this. And so we asked the manufacturer of the speaker box to give us some physics here so that we could present that to you. And what this, unfortunately, we didn't get it till late, and we just gave it to you. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to read it, but I'll tell you essentially what it says. The first graph that's shown, figure 3, what that's showing us is that whether the sound is indoors or it's outdoors, I don't know why I'm getting this graph, there we go. Whether it's indoors or outdoors, the chamber or the outdoor values, what you see is a decline of approximately 6 decibels per each time you double the distance from the sound. So if it at 1 foot, if it's in this case, this is showing a very high level at 85 decibels, which is about as high as it would ever get. And then it goes down, and that by the time you get to 64 feet on this, you are down to a point where you are at around 55 decibels, which is actually what the ordinance, the noise ordinance would require in any event. And we are, of course, more than the 64 feet away. So we have enough distance where the sound isn't going to transmit beyond our property line. And then the next slide shows the incremental amount of sound that the boxes, the speaker boxes make above and beyond whatever the ambient noise levels are, that they drop over this period, so that when you're about 32 feet away, you are below the level that anybody could actually hear it. The 0 is what a human can perceive. And so the rest of this describes the technology of the speaker units that are designed to, what they do is they take the ambient sound. So if you've got a loud truck that's making a lot of noise, it's going to pump up the sound a little bit, or a little bit more. It's going to always be about 6 to 12 decibels above the ambient sound. But on the other hand, if you've got an electric car that's making no noise and we have a quiet night, it will reduce the sound dramatically. So it's designed to take that into account, and that's our sort of our physics lesson for me anyway. Maybe it was obvious to everybody here that sound dissipates over space. So what we are suggesting is that given our site plan, we are it's really difficult given the ability, the need for stacking and for turn radiuses and to really change the site that much. And the location of the drive-throughs is really needed for a drive-through fast food restaurant, and the speaker boxes are where they pretty much where they have to be in order to make this site work. And so because we don't think we think we have a practical difficulty and meet the other standards, and we're not going to affect our neighbor at all. We think that we're asking for the variance for that differential. That's the speaker. Would you like me to address the other variances as well? Okay. So the other variance request is a little more unusual, and I will tell you that it's actually changed on the fly. As I said, this is a new model that Burger King's rolled out. It is their most sophisticated, more upscale, model to date. They're trying to create a new look. I don't know if that means they're trying to compete with Chick-fil-A or whoever else, but they are trying to make it, look a little bit different and a more sophisticated look. So one thing that you'll see on our elevation, this is actually a new elevation that just came in the last week or so. You'll see that you wouldn't know because it's not really relevant to this discussion, but the red band that you often see in a Burger King, it's been eliminated from this model. They are trying to make it look, like I say, more sophisticated. But one of the big features of this sizzle model is this, the brick wall that's shown in the elevation. And now, the truth is that it wasn't a brick wall in some of the early versions of this site, of this model. In the south, where it was rolled out, they put in what is effectively a metal backing. It's similar color, but it's basically a decorative wall. And I was looking in the back of your room here. It's a little like the wall in the back of your room. It's designed to be a decoration. And in fact, it is, but it has been changed because of the weather concerns. Burger King all of a sudden announced that, woke up one day and realized that, well, this is the north, and we have salt and bad weather, and metal may not do well, sitting on the ground or whatever. And so they dictated a new version of this sign, this wall, and asked that it be brick, so that we wouldn't run into some of those weather issues. And so what we're suggesting here is that part of that wall is simply made of brick, and then let's see. So if you look at the next slide, it's decorative brick. It's brick, right? If you look at it, and
We've brought a sample of the brick if anyone would like to.
yeah, it turns out it's brick. And,
It's brick.
Some of the bricks stick out farther than others, creating.
Oh, yeah, you get that.
It's an architectural feature.
A 3D thing.
correct.
It's not something specific to Burger King.
Right. Right. That's it.
Right, and it's not colored particularly, but it's designed to be a decorative building design feature. And if you saw the early renditions, and maybe some of you did, I don't know, where it was made of metal, the part in the middle, and it's not shown on this brick wall. This is a sort of a sample, but in the middle of the brick wall, embedded in the wall itself, is the words "Home of the Whopper," and of course that's what's created the issue here. And but the idea is that it's like a "Where's Waldo?" The words are not obvious unless you're standing in front of the wall. And the idea is that you're looking from the side. Some bricks stick out, some are set back in, and the words they're sort of embedded in the whole thing now. With that said, we are now told that the middle part of the wall is where the words are going to be pinned is actually like a painted metal. So it's going to match the rest of the wall or be very close to the rest of the wall. But they apparently, from a logistical standpoint, they could only do these embedded letters. I mean, that's the art, I guess, into a metal background. But the bottom line is, it's not affixed to anything. It's not, this brick wall is actually the wall. And the metal panel where these letters are is the wall. It's not affixed to a brick wall or something. It is the wall. So why do I say all these things? I say them because we're asking for a variance for a sign. Our sign administrator, took the, I'll call it a conservative approach, and said, this may be a sign, and so you need to apply for a variance. But as I looked at the ordinance, it struck me that the definition of wall sign, which is what we're talking about here, is a sign attached to or placed flush against the exterior wall or surface of any building wherein no portion of which projects more than 12 inches from the wall, which is to say, it's something attached to the exterior wall. And what we're talking about here is the wall. It's just a building design feature that has the words sort of embedded in it. Okay, so
I'm confused. You're not saying that Home of the Whopper is not a sign?
So here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that for a variety of reasons, even if it were a sign, and by the way, this isn't a sign, you know, I heard in the last discussion, you know, the safety feature, you can see the sign, it helps you get in we don't need a sign to help people get in. There's a pylon sign. This is a decorative item. This is a part of a corporate, you know, I don't want to say branding, but a corporate look that they're shooting for, that they've required that we put in for this model. And the words are supposed to be effectively built in. And as you look, if you look at this was part of our sign package, the slide I have up now shows that from the side, you can't necessarily tell what letters you're looking at. This is, in other words, they come out from the wall an inch or two, and you have to actually be in front of the wall to see it.
These are a halo sign, so the actual face of the letters is not lit. It's lit behind it in a silhouette. So it's a more upscale.
The idea is to not to attract people from the road. It's really to make the building itself more sophisticated looking for people who are already on the site.
Let me interrupt you for 1 second and ask one really simple question.
Yes.
Whether we believe that is a sign or not, is that a hill that you're willing to either succeed or fail on tonight?
I don't think we need to. I think that, well, let me say this. We are requesting a variance from the ordinance. We would very much like to be able to build this design of Burger King, you know, meet the corporate requirements, and we're really looking for ways to help you help us. And if it's not a wall sign, then it doesn't violate the ordinance. If you find that it's a wall sign, we would ask at least that you recognize that the brick wall is just a wall, and that if this is a sign, if the Home of the Whopper is a sign, that it is just the portion of, well, the dimensions of the sort of the rectangle within, well, actually, this says Home of the, is it two-tiered? Okay, so
The metal piece, basically.
the metal piece would be, if there's a sign here, a wall sign, that would be the wall sign, and we would ask that be what's considered, and that one, if it's just that, doesn't violate the 10% rule, and the second variance wouldn't be required. So the starting point is we are asking for a second, to the extent that this is a sign, we're asking for a second sign. And to the extent that you see it as a sign, we're asking that only the Home of the Whopper portion of it be viewed as a sign so that the second variance isn't required. But I suppose in the end, if you see it all as one sign, we're asking for a variance to allow us to bring that model to the community.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Kirby.
Per our sign ordinance, which is number 153, it says the entire area within a circle, triangle, parallelogram, or other geometric configuration, including the extreme limits of writing, representation, emblem, or any figure or similar character, together with any frame or other material or color forming an integral part of the display, are used to differentiate the sign from the background against which it is placed, is our definition of a sign. So by that definition, this architectural feature is a wall sign under our ordinance.
I agree.
In my opinion.
And would necessitate
Would necessitate a variance.
all the variances that they're requesting.
Yes.
To cover that language.
Correct. Now, Mr. Goodlow, you know the codes better than I do. Is there a case to be made that says only the Home of the Whopper, that metal piece being the sign with this brick enclosure being around it?
Structure which includes name, identification, image, description, display, or illustration, which is affixed to, painted, or represent directly onto a building, structure, parcel, ... So I would say just the Home of the Whopper. In my opinion, that's just what I read when I read that. Obviously, it's a sign, because it's identifying and describing, but, yeah.
And the primary reason I bring that up, Mr. Chairman, is Home of the Whopper is only 23.32 square feet, as opposed to the whole thing being 164. So that's why I wanted some guidance from our code enforcement there.
Common definition, based on me spending a lot of time in a lot of different jurisdictions. If something is on a building and they sell it in the building, it's a sign. If something is there that they don't sell in the building, you can make an argument that maybe it isn't.
They don't sell homes in this building.
They sell Whoppers all day long.
I know. Sorry for my attempt there.
That's okay. Board members.
On the, go ahead. On the drive-through, I want to go back to that, the dual. So the one that is currently the existing drive-through lane where that speaker is, that's going to stay. You're going to put the second on the, you're going to go further.
No, we had to redesign the site so that it's, the one that is farthest from the residential is now 98 feet. We were told that we didn't need to get a variance for the 98 feet, because if we got a variance for the 78 feet, that would suffice. But we've moved it closer. We moved it as close as we could and still allow the site to work.
Okay, so that existing drive-through, that's going to be completely removed, and you'll be going closer towards Lapeer Road.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
I'm fond of saying in all of my jobs with the township, I'm not an engineer or an architect, so therefore I don't know a lot about stuff. But it seems to me, I would share Mr. Goodlow's opinion in that this is a sign hanging on a wall. I mean, it's not, I mean, if there was a screw on the wall and in the wall and there was a piece of wire and this sign was put on that screw, it's a sign. The fact that it's attached to the wall doesn't convince me that it's no longer a sign and the whole wall is a sign. That's my thought.
If I may, I don't want to, it wouldn't be in my character to concede, but the fact is that, as Mr. Mahoney pointed out as he was cross-examining me, I can understand, I fully understand the notion that the lettering as it's attached to the wall could be viewed as a sign, or I should say a wall sign. Right, the definition is it's got to be affixed to the sign. I think that the letters, even though the original design of this was designed to be carved into the stone, that's the look. It's supposed to be a wall that has this carved into it, and that it's virtually invisible from the roadway. It's hard for us to know because, frankly, this is going to be the first one. We don't know exactly whether it's going to look, be as invisible as we expect it to be, but that was the reason I even mentioned the idea that it wasn't a sign. But I understand why you consider it a sign, but we would suggest that that's the sign, not the rest of the brick wall.
Mr. Chairman? I think that's what I just said. It is.
That was a long-winded way of agreeing with you.
Yes, it was. In speaking with our zoning and planning specialists, she did make a note here for us, and I've never run into this before, where she says that we are a determining body that can make the determination whether the entire brick area should be considered a sign or only the sign. I don't know how we go about doing that, if we got to take a vote on it or what, but I would be inclined to agree with the gentleman and our colleague here that only that metal sign is the actual sign, and that the brick wall, seeing it is, yes, it's architectural, but it's also structural in that it is the actual wall, is not part of the sign. And if we take that position, then their second variance is not required on the sign side, and we would only be granting two variances, a second sign for the metal sign and then the speaker box variances. That would be my position. I don't know if I need to make a motion for that or how we do that.
Well, let me ask the members, is there anybody that hearing what Mr. Kirby just said about what would be the sign portion of it? Is there anybody that believes we need to discuss this further? That particular portion? Mr. Cook?
I do. I see it as a sign. So, because what I get concerned about is if we treat it that way, it opens a door to a whole bunch of future discussion.
So you see the sign as the entire structure,
I do.
not just the,
I do.
okay?
I still feel that only the metal portion is, because if the brick was not part of the wall, I would agree. But with the brick being part of the wall, I see, from, my background's in construction, so for me, that's a wall. If they took this entire section here, where they got home of the Whopper, and instead of making it glass where you got the natural light and everything else inside and brick that all over, we would not consider that all part of the sign. That's my opinion.
I would suggest that if a motion is made based on this part being the sign, anyone that disagrees with that interpretation is certainly free to vote no on the motion.
Absolutely.
So I don't know how deeply we need to. Ms. Walker, you got any thoughts on that?
No, I think that's probably the way to handle it. If somebody makes a motion on that subject, and depending how the board votes, either then it's a sign or not a sign.
Just two motions.
This one particular.
The only problem I see with that is whoever makes the motion,
Better do the math.
well, the math is not too hard to do. We've got it right here. It's 23.35 for the sign. We just subtract, out what the other allowance is. It's right here, 131. So we can add the 32.82 to the 23.35, but whoever makes the motion is going to be either granting 3 variances or 2 variances.
Ms. Goodall, in your opinion, are we making this more difficult than?
100%.
And I can agree, we
There's two motions we gotta make.
We did.
Hear the speakers first.
Had this whole metal thing, which was very artistic. and
Good idea.
Oh, it's right.
Probably would clearly all be assigned, it was all uniform. And when they realized that the thing was rusting to hell, then they made the rest of it gray. We had already submitted the first part.
Do we have anybody in the audience tonight that came to speak to this?
One single motion.
Seeing none, thank you.
This is what we're discussing right
Come on up,
now. Gotta get this one out of the way.
come on up and
Okay.
introduce yourself and.
I don't have any bearing with these folks at all, but I know Chrysler came and made us put up like a big archway, and if you start considering physical structures part of signage, I mean, people aren't gonna be able to build buildings to conform with their franchises. And this is just strictly a building, and it's part of a building. If they put up Cedar Shake, and that's what they wanted was Cedar Shake, Burger King, I mean, it's part of the building, it's not signed.
For the record, could you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, I'm Brian Malash.
Okay, thank you,
From Palace, used to be Palace Chrysler Creek, now it's Sarah, so, but
thank you.
just a thought to think about going forward with these franchises. Otherwise, you're gonna open a can of worms up, and I know everyone's always worried about a lawsuit. You're gonna get sued by someone wanting to do just an architectural design, and you guys are gonna call it signage. It doesn't make sense to me, just a thought. Just
Thank
for
you.
the Township.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Flood.
we had the same conversation back when Buffalo Wild Wings wanted to change their signage on their building on the Pier Road up there. You remember all the yellow paint was included in that signage? This is similar to that. We're back to that, we circled back to that when we had to handle that one. That was a few years ago, too.
I remember.
My opinion, for what it's worth, who's ever gonna make the motion to this stuff,
Well,
is that So lawsuits, that's none of our business.
I can't
We
get past,
rule on what we got in front of us.
yeah. I can't get past the fact that, in my opinion, the sign part, home of the Whopper, is the sign. What if they'd have put it on the side of their physical building? We couldn't call the entire wall of their building a sign. So I see the informative part that you read as being part of the sign. But that's just me.
I think the definition of sign in the ordinance really points it out. If you guys have time, it says a structure which includes the name, identification, image, description, display, or illustration, which is affixed to, painted, or represented directly upon a building. I think that pretty much sums up that what's considered the sign, image, description, identification, you know, meets all those criteria. Now, it's not wall sign, that's just sign. So, you know, because the intent, obviously, you don't want big murals, you know, just because you build a big brick building and you make it a mural, does that make it a sign? I mean, I don't know how that would go over, but from what it calls like, you know, it seems like just the imaging of the name would be considered, in my opinion, but you guys are the gatekeepers.
The young lady in the middle, you came last time too, didn't you? I remember you being eloquent and having good ideas. We seem to be stuck. Do you have anything you could toss out that might help us?
Not that we want to put you on the spot.
I mean, nothing you haven't really mentioned before.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to me, only the text identifying something should count as a sign that the wall that's hanging off on.
Hey, it was just a party not heard from. I thought you might have the key right there.
Mr. Chairman, I have an idea. I'm willing to make a motion on the first part with the speaker boxes.
Let's get this out of the way.
Get that out of the way, and then we can make a motion on the second part, the wall signs, and anybody who doesn't agree with that motion that I'm also willing to make can vote no, and we'll have the board make its decision that way, if that's acceptable.
Let's begin to move forward.
Yep.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Let me find my little sheet here. Gotta get all the numbers right. There we go. In the matter of ZBA case number AB-2024-14, Carol's LLC for Lapeer Road Burger King at 1155 South Lapeer Road, parcel number 09-14-226-011. I would move that the applicant's request for one variance for zoning ordinance number 78, Zone GB, Article 14, Section 14.02A1, 1, a 21.66-foot speaker box setback variance from the required 100-foot from residential zone property for speaker boxes to be 78.34 feet from the property line east be granted. Yep. For the plan date stamped received April 12th, 2024, because the applicant did demonstrate that the following standards for variance have been met in this case, and that they set forth facts that show that in this case, the petitioner does show a practical difficulty because of the existing lot and the existing, sorry, I thought you shook your head no for a second.
Oh, no, not at all.
That the petitioner does show that the following practical difficulty has been met due to the unique characteristics of the lot that is there, makes it impossible for it to be used as a fast food with a drive-through without the variance, and the fact that the exceptional and extraordinary circumstances or conditions that apply to the property involved do not generally apply to other properties in the same district zone, because again, the lot size is such that they cannot get the necessary distance from the residential. This variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of the substantial property rights possessed by others, properties in the same zone or vicinities based on the following facts. Again, it's the distance allowed within that zone, and the fact that they have gone through new technology to make sure that the sound does not carry to the residential, and because the unique topographic area of that property does have a wet zone, a retention pond that will not be able to be used for housing, which increases the total distance from the residential to the speaker boxes to 149 feet.
Mr. Chair, I will support that if the motion maker will include that the petitioner has indicated he's going to put up a tree or some trees toward the ponds of Orion, and also that the ponds of Orion is in the process of placing a series of trees on its property to further keep any noise that would penetrate that from happening.
I will agree.
I have one small detail too that I was thinking. I believe the motion read that it would be impossible to use as a drive-through restaurant. Could we add that it could be impossible to use as a two-lane, a dual-lane?
Yes, I will modify that. It would be impossible to use as a dual-lane fast food restaurant.
Very good.
May I also, you said 149, I think it's 140.
I will I wrote that down.
May as well, I just want to have the record clear on that.
No, I want to be accurate. Oh, here's my packet.
Mr. Kirby's defense, he's trying to do this on the fly, and it's not easy.
It is 140, you are correct. So I would like to modify it to 140, not 149.
Okay.
Amend my support.
Do we have anything additional by the board? On the first part of this, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Kirby with support by Mr. Walker with an amendment. I offered an accepted amendment myself. We should be all set. Nothing additional by the board. Please call the roll.
John Walker?
Yes.
Tony Cook?
No.
Tony Kirby?
Yes.
Mike Flood?
Yes.
Dan Durham?
Yes, your speaker boxes are good. You're locked in with that piece.
Thank you.
Real quick on the Home of the Whopper sign. Kind of does look like there's a bun and like squashing, so the trick of it is the bricks making it with, so you can see the words, but also look like a bun. I believe our planning and zoning director, this pictures the whole wall as being that sign, so to speak. Because it's almost like a play on the wall, so moving forward, this will kind of set precedence, because you might see these things more often where they're using bricks as the eye tricks, which identify the building, which could be considered a sign. Just food for thought, obviously.
I'd like to ask one question before I make my motion.
Please.
The Home of the Whopper is physically mounted to the brick wall, correct? It's not embedded, from what I was seeing there, you have rivets where it is actually set out just slightly.
So there's a brick wall, the bricks behind the Home of the Whopper are all the shallower ones, so it's uniform. And then there are metal rods that go through the area behind the Home of the Whopper, anchor it into the wall. So it's sitting off an inch and a half. It's only that inch and a half, that's the only light you see coming around.
That's what is leading me to believe that only the Home of the Whopper is the sign, is that there is that inch behind it. You could easily come in and cut those out and pull that sign off, and you would just have a brick wall.
Actually, you have a metal panel behind the bricks.
Oh, okay.
Behind the bricks, it's a metal panel everywhere else.
Okay. That was my misunderstanding then.
Well, it changes every week. No, I'm not kidding. By the time we submit something, the sign company tells us they can't figure out how to build it.
I'm still willing to move forward, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have any additional discussion by the board members before Mr. Kirby makes his motion? Go ahead, please.
Okay, in the matter of ZBA case AB-2024-14, Carol's LLC for Lapeer Road Burger King, 1155 South Lapeer Road, number 091426-011. I would move that the applicant's request for one variance from sign ordinance number 153, non-residential saw wall signs, if I can speak. One, a variance to allow one additional wall sign above the one allowed for two wall signs totaling, my math is correct, it's 56.17 feet, be granted for the plans date stamped received April 12th, 2024, because the applicant did demonstrate the following standards for the variance have been met in this case, and that they have set forth, which shows that in this case, the petitioner shows the practical difficulty of meeting the corporate branding for Burger King, and, think a second here, meeting the corporate branding for Burger King, and that the wall sign, Home of the Whopper, is only, just had that. I just had that. Where'd I put it? Always fun. 23.35 square feet. And that the brick wall behind it is not part of the wall sign, but is part of the actual building. Yes. That is the actual amount of space that the Home of the Whopper is taking up. That is what I was given on our sheet.
Assistance, Mr. Goodlow, would be appreciated.
I'm going based off of our memoranda here where it says 23.35 square feet is what the one wall sign is, and that the other wall sign,
131 square feet.
I added the two numbers, the wrong two numbers together. I apologize. Let me quickly do that. 23,
Take the 39 off of the 131.
8, 7, 4, 5. You're correct. It's, instead of the 23, or the 56.17, I would like to modify to 154.78 for the total amount of the wall sign. I'm basing that off of Lynn's notes here that say the words themselves are only 23.35.
I think in practical terms, even if you did the 39, you'd still be under the 200 feet.
That's the main point of the motion, is it's going to be under the 200.
We can't have the applicant unclear. I mean, we're having a hard enough time ourselves.
Yeah.
If you believe there's a flaw in this, please.
Yeah, well, there's,
The Home of the Whopper sign's around 38 square feet.
right, and we think that the Burger King sign is, actually, do you have a measurement on that? Anything in? I have the brand book, wait.
We still have a motion, well, we have a motion on the floor, but we haven't had a second, so.
That is correct.
Sorry to interrupt, I just wanted to, if I can provide the information, I'd like to do that. And I don't know if I have it.
I'll have a comment on the motion when we get done. Yes, for board member comment.
You find it in there? We have 32.81 square feet for the smaller the Burger King sign with that looks like a bun. And we think that the home of the Whopper is about 38 square feet?
Okay,
38.26 feet, based on the square feet, based on the measurements in our elevation that we just submitted.
okay, then I was right with my initial number, and the number we were provided by the township of 23.39 square feet is the incorrect number. What did you say home of the Whopper was? 38.26. Chairman, can I just start the motion completely over?
Please do, but before you do, any member of the board have any helpful discussion before we do this again? Mr. Flood, you had something on your mind.
I'll wait for the motion first.
All right.
I'll make my comment if the motion gets seconded and all that. Board member comment on the motion. That's a proper procedure. Yeah, no, I didn't want to influence the motion maker at all.
Okay, please, Mr. Kirby.
All right, let's start over again. In the matter of ZBA case number AB-2024-14, Carol's LLC for Lapeer Road Burger King, 1155 South Lapeer Road, parcel number 09-14-226-011. I would move that the applicant's request for one variance from sign ordinance number 153, non-residential wall sign. One, a variance to allow one additional wall sign above the one allowed for a total of two wall signs totaling 71.07 square feet. Be granted for the plans date stamped received April 12, 2024, because the applicant did demonstrate the following standards for the variance have been met in this case, and that they set forth facts which show that in this case, the petitioner does show the following practical difficulties. Due to the nature of the new design for Burger King, in order to fulfill the requirements of the branding, a second sign would be required. This would still keep the total square footage of the signage under the 10% for the total of the building, it being 71.07. The sign is a wall sign. It is not causing any undue hazard from the roadway for vision or anything else. It can only be seen as the individuals are standing in the parking lot. The variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of the substantial property rights possessed by the property in the same zone or vicinity, based on the facts that as we move forward into the future, signage is becoming extremely important in branding, and companies, if we wish to draw business into our community, we need to be more accommodating on those. Done.
I will support that motion if the motion maker indicates it is based upon our interpretation of the sign ordinance.
Yes.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Kirby with support amended by Mr. Walker. Mr. Flood, do you have anything to add?
Just a comment on the process we're going through here. This is why I do not like on-the-fly figuring and stuff, because once the motion is made, and if it's wrong, they're stuck with the number, and they'll have to come back again, because this is the letter of the law we just approved. They may be erring on a too small side. No, this is the comment I'm making. We've had similar cases like that. We can make these adjustments, that's perfectly our right. You know, we can do that. But you see how much difficulty we've had. And one further thing, the way our ordinance reads, if that's out of whack, well, that's too bad. They'll have to handle that somehow down the road if they want to amend the ordinance. But we're stuck with what the language is in our ordinance. Whether or not we get threat to go to court or not, that's out of this preview of this body. That's not our preview. We try to do the best we can. But to be threatened for a lawsuit, I don't take that as any, and these gentlemen didn't do that.
No.
I'm just saying, in general, you know, but that's just my general opinion. We'll let the vote take place.
Well, the interpretation is where, I guess we part, and the vote will take the vote, so.
Mr. Walker? Nothing? Nope. All right, we have a motion on the floor with support, a second. Please call the roll.
Mike Flood,
No.
John Walker,
Yes.
Tony Kirby,
Yes.
Tony Cook,
No.
Dan Durham.
Yes. Motion passes.
You too.
Thank you.
Do you understand it?
I think we do.
I'm being honest.
No, well, I understand the motion. I think we've got the figures right. We tried very hard to get them right, and we know what our limitations are in this regard, and all I can tell you is, if something changes again, we have to roll with it just like everyone else, and we have to, be bound or guided by the ZBA.
I would offer that if you go away from here and the three of you can't agree on what you heard, maybe somebody calls planning and zoning tomorrow and gets some direction from them before you move forward with anything.
Okay.
If you have.
So to be clear, before we leave, there's what was approved was the home of the Whopper wording on a brick wall in the form that that was discussed today. It's not on however it was described, there's a metal panel or something, and it's the size that was described in the motion, and that's been approved, and because that is not more than 10% of the total elevation, the second variance wasn't required, or we don't believe it's required, because it was only required when the entire entire brick wall was considered a sign, and it exceeded that percentage. That's what we understand, and that we have the sort of the go-ahead to put the brick wall up there and the home of the Whopper and get this thing done already.
I don't disagree with what I've just heard you say, but what I will tell you again, if I was pulling my checkbook out to get that built, I would make sure that the township was 100% on board. I don't think there's going to be any surprises, but you want them before you spend your money, not after.
I have no problem with that. We've been in touch with the township, and we will again. I appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
I have a question for the applicant.
One question, go ahead.
I thought I saw it in here. All right. You were denied by the planning commission because of the variance on the speaker box on your site plan. That correct?
Correct. What they said. Well, it was,
You were denied.
it was denied. It was denied.
Your site plan is not approved until this variance, if you got this variance. approved.
Correct.
Now, your site plan now is approved now because of this.
Right.
And the sign language, the signs are separate from the, excuse me.
If we don't get a sign, we don't get a sign,
Yeah.
but without the speaker box, we get.
So your site plan will be approved now without having to go back through the planning commission again.
Well, actually, my understanding is that they have received all of the changes that were required. They will make a sort of a final administrative review, and once they're satisfied with that, and with the approval of the ZBA on the speaker boxes, our site plan can move forward and go for permits.
And you can pull the permits from Mr. Goodlow.
Say that again?
You'll pull your permits from the building department, Mr. Goodlow.
Oh, Mr. Goodlow.
That's your building department official.
Okay.
So you answered my question.
Yes.
Yep.
Good to meet you.
Everything is
spoke.
confusing the way we have to do things, you know?
Yeah, understood.
And thank you for providing the numbers, because without those numbers, you would have put up a sign that would not have met the code, or you would have been stuck.
Right. Understood. All right. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. Next case, AB 2024-15, Brian Malash, 1465 Brown Road, Sidwell, 09-34-300-010. Applicant is seeking one variance from zoning ordinance 78, Article 18, Section 18.04. Number one, a .74 acre variance from the minimum lot area for each use within an industrial park of 2 acres for a parcel to be 1.2 6 acres zoned IP. Gentlemen, introduce yourselves, please. Let us know what you'd like to do.
I'm Brian Malash, now with Peninsula Gardens, no longer with Palace Chrysler Jeep. Obviously, this is Justin Anaskas, if you guys are familiar with him, and he's going to do the presentation tonight.
Okay.
PowerPoint.
Excellent, thank you. Yep, Justin Didaskus, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, for hearing our request tonight. It's for a variance from the IP zoning, which requires that if you're doing an overall development, it has to start with 20 acres, and then any parcel, broadly speaking, within the development was kind of the vision of IP or industrial park when it was conceived decades ago, that each parcel has to be a minimum of 2 acres. This parcel was actually already zoned IP, which we'll talk about in just a minute, but was changed to OP for tax purposes by the current owner. The applicant has the property under contract, and as part of the use that he's looking for, needs the property rezoned. So this hardship wasn't created by the applicant. And so the site's over on Brown Road, 1465 Brown Road. It's the, was the former chief credit union for decades, for a very long time. And then the last couple of years, or the last number of years, it's been an office use for G3 Steel, if you see the sign over there. You can kind of see the existing conditions, the monument sign out front for G3. This is a variance for, again, just the underlying zoning, because the parcel is 1.27 acres and not the minimum 2 acres that's required by the letter of the IP zoning. You can see the parcel again here, ample parking to the rear, kind of it's got a U-shaped driveway, typical, you know, for the former drive-through or the former chief credit union. And again, it had always been zoned IP, because if you look around it, everything is zoned IP around here. I think that's actually a little anomaly to the left, that's industrial. I don't think, because that's a small sliver of a parking lot of a very large RJ Auto or RJ Auto or something, that new purpose-built on Brown Road anyways. So that little parcel next to it, maybe it's zoned industrial, I don't believe so when I looked at their site plan. But anyways, acres, dozens and dozens, 100 acres plus is all zoned IP around here. This is the only parcel, so it's kind of the opposite. It's almost like a, you know, spot zoning that's left. So this is really just bringing this variance request, brings it in conformity with all the parcels that are around it, including the parcel that's immediately adjacent to this, that's only just over half an acre, 0.54 acres, and it's zoned IP. So there's a number of acres that are parcels that are zoned IP that are under 2 acres. It just so happens, again, as history was told, that this property owner, previous property owner, not the applicant, had rezoned this for tax purposes to office industrial park. So it's completely surrounded by IP, big industrial users and smaller industrial, a couple 1,000 square foot users up the road to the northeast. And so this is part of a conditional rezoning that's being offered up. Mr. Malash is not looking to run an office there, but this is the first step. We need the property to be zoned IP. And so if we look at the reasons for the request, I think it's pretty much, you know, lines up for the ordinance of the township and the requirements. And given that, you know, it's just certainly unique that it's the only OP in a sea of IP. I think that's certainly unique, and you don't see that throughout the district. It is consistent with the master plan to have it zoned IP, be it under 2 acres or otherwise. There's other parcels that are under 2 acres. Also, I mentioned the, you know, rezoning took place to OP for tax purposes, in that this really aligns it with everything that's going on in this area, and it was not self-created, you know, by the applicant, more looking to bring it in line. And again, we have immediately adjacent is a parcel that's only 0.54, that's IP.
It is zoned currently OP, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Is it your belief that there is no permitted use under OP, that you can't leave it as it is and accomplish?
Not for the applicant's purposes and or overall in a parcel that's surrounded by all industrial area. I don't think you're gonna have too many, I don't think a credit union is gonna come back there. I don't think, you know, it doesn't really lend itself. And the use that's there, they service the industrial users. It's more of an office. They broker metals, basically, and fasteners and things. I don't want to butcher what they do or represent them. But from my understanding, and again, you look at everything that's developed on our side of the township, or in the township rather, or even on the opposite street, it's all industrial. So I really don't feel office is a use, you know, for the parcel. And it's surrounded by industrial parks, so trying to make it coincide.
Thank you. Board members?
Ms. Goodlow? He says that this property was rezoned for tax purposes. Can you tell us when it was, if it was ever zoned IP, and if it was changed to OP, when it was done, when that was done?
I do not know the answer to that question. I apologize. I can look up as much information I can. I would not be able to tell you when the last rezone was.
Okay.
Give me a minute.
Let me ask the applicant, do you know?
I don't have the exact date, but I think I may have been serving then on one of the boards, and through the current property owner, was from his, he said he did it himself, and I vaguely remember, but I don't have any dates, or I can't back it up. He just told me, so like, how is this even zoned IP? He goes, well, we were told for tax purposes, if you zone OP, we're gonna save on real property and personal property. And then he said, I, again, vaguely remember, and they've owned it for 7 years now, the current property owners, and it was at the front end of when they bought the property. So 6 years ago, if I had to guess.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What concerns me in how this is set up right now, why is that little OP inside that industrial park? The OP meets their setback criteria for the size of lot. For IP, why they did a minimum of 2 acres was that they could meet the setbacks. There's more there's like, you look at here, you got 50-yard setback. You look at your IP, how it's set up in your schematic on your paperwork there. And the reason why they do the 2 acres is to meet those variances, those setbacks. Now, if you went back to IP on this again, then they won't meet the setbacks for the surrounding area. That's just another thing I'm looking at too. When you compare the OP and the IP, is there's a difference in setbacks, as is written in the ordinance.
I don't see anything from planning commission since we've had BSNA, so I was gonna look in the laser fee, see if I got anything, but it's been OP since we've had BSNA for this, so which has been since minimum of 2003, I think. So I'll look in laser fee, see if I can find anything.
Well, since 2003, that tells us it's at least over 10 years.
Yeah, as far as this system's concerned, it's been OP since
Okay.
Is the existing property, that building, was that OP? They were operating a permitted use in that existing building, right? Or what is currently zoned?
Union was a permitted use in office professional, yeah.
Okay. What I'm trying to figure out now, what's the practical difficulty on not still being an OP and operating anything that is within the OP scope? That's what which meets the criteria of the ordinance for that size of property. So I'm looking at the size. Why did they, what's the difference here? Because the applicant's trying to say, well, I agree with the applicant, there's compatibility around it.
If I may through the chair, I think the property and the use lends up very well to the industrial park and the area surrounding it. And it's got a full basement, it's 2 floors, it's got safes, Fastenal, tool and die shop, pick industrial user, I think would love that site. They got the parking in the rear, they could do some outdoor storage, all permitted or not. I think it lays itself, very well to industrial park. And if you look at some of the smaller developments up the street, it's the same thing. There's retail uses up the street that look, it's a little bigger, but there's a building that was just built up the street off of Liberty that's, same uses look we're intending to, and that's zone industrial park. So I think it's proven up the street that retail type use like this, NIP, has been developed, and we're seeing the same thing as what we're looking to do here.
Mr. Walker?
I understand that there's lots of IPs that could be developed in businesses in the IP. But why aren't there a lot of businesses that can't be developed in the OP as it stands now?
Because most office professionals don't want to go in a sea of industrial. And the applicant has a use that he wants to put, and it's only allowed in IP. So I think that proves the answer right there. We have a user that wants to come and use it for IP right now.
There's a myriad of reasons, classifications for OP. And all of those seem to be, why couldn't you do that?
Because that's not what the applicant needs to do or can do with the property, and again, it's surrounded by it. So that's like saying, well, any parcel's only in residential, why don't you go build a house there? It's own residential. Well, the market may not demand to build a house on there, may demand, multifamily right now.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Kirby, I know it's been a long day.
Long day.
It has been. I understand that the surrounding usage is IP. I understand that what he desires to do, it requires an IP zoning from what you just said. However, what is the practical difficulty that he's experiencing there if he's bought the property?
So the property's under contract, we cannot go forward with our use unless it's zoned IP. So that's a very big difficulty. Do not pass go if it's not zoned IP.
But that is a self-created practical difficulty.
No, the applicant didn't rezone the property to OP.
No, but he's picking a property that has an OP zoning and trying to do an IP process there by choice. Now, and this is only my opinion, but by doing it by choice that way, he is choosing to try to move forward with a project that requires a zoning that's not there. That's a self-created, to me, that's a self-created issue.
I guess I have to respectfully disagree. That's why everyone would come to ask a variance. They want a variance deviation from what's allowed. So I don't know if that's a direct application because he wants to do something different than OP. Well, same with the guy that wanted a fence variance, same with the guy that wanted a sign variance. Everyone wants something different than what's allowed. That's why we're here. And I just find it very odd that when you have a parcel that's immediately adjacent and that we're going to combine these parcels and bring it more into conformity with all the zoning ordinances, that there's angst of not having it coincide and make it more uniform with what's set forth, what's been developed in the area, and what's currently zoned. You're saying I want a spot zoning. I don't want it uniform. That's the opposite of what I've seen in my practice on both sides of the aisle over 15 years. I just find it very confusing, I guess.
Are there physical difficulties with the land that would preclude other OPs from going in there?
Just in the little bit of real estate developing I'm doing, haven't done. OP is not moving anywhere right now. I mean, Chrysler in particular, they have 2/3 of their places open, office space. Everyone's working from home. No one's building office professional space. You can rent it very cheaply because no one's in it. I mean, it's just not a viable, not for me, obviously, but the people that own this, if something doesn't happen here and they have to sell it, they're gonna have to change it to something. They're not gonna get people to buy it for office professional space. And you can look at that up and down the strip. I mean, it's just gonna happen, Everybody's working from home now. I mean,
Just south of the dealership, there's not much property on M24, but there's 33 acres of OP, at least 18 is buildable. It's been on the market for 7 years.
To me, when we start talking market and stuff, we're talking financial, and we have no business, that there's no bearing on our non-use variance discretion is the cost of something, or if the market's,
But the difficult,
that's a
I
financial.
admit it has no bearing, but it does have a little bit. I mean, it has bearing. I mean, with my development, the township would get a lot more taxes. The building would be upgraded substantially. It would look really nice. It would be just about the same dollars I was gonna spend on the dispensary I was gonna have approved just up the road, which I had approved. But the only reason I didn't is because when the dealership got kicked from Graff to Sarah, due to a law that Chrysler can choose the dealer right at the end, Sarah said the only way this one's going forward is if I have all this land, and I had to give up my acre that I had for the dispensary up the street. And that was only gonna be probably an acre and a half. I mean, 'cause that's all I had been working with Tammy and everyone on that whole thing too for, what,
Yeah.
probably a year, trying to get that thing with Graff. And then right at the end, Sarah said, nope, I gotta have it. Need it for my whole big giant development, which I'm sure they're gonna come in here and be standing in front of you pretty quick, with their big ideas. But that's how we, didn't have the dispensary site anymore. And it was basically, it's funny, when you look at the dispensary that we were going to build compared to what this place is, it's literally almost exactly the same thing. I mean, you could literally put it right on top of it. It's exactly what we wanted to build, same size, same everything. It'll cost me about the same, because this property's gonna cost me $1.5 million. It's gonna cost me $1 million to redo it, and that dispensary over there would have cost me $2.5 million, $2.8 million to build, or the prices I had from Rewald to build it. So it's about just, it's a sideways move for me. Same traffic count, just about. To be honest, I would have rather been closer to 24. I think that's a way better market. I would have had sight from 20, people would have been able to see it from 24. This isn't as good a location, but it is built, it does exist. If we can get the zoning, if after the zoning, I still have a lot of hurdles to cross with the township to even get the license, potentially even moved. So this is just step one in this process, and it'll just do nothing but, I think, increase, you know, the town, it'll look a lot nicer first off, and the township's gonna make a lot more taxes off me and my purpose than what's happening right now. And the current landowner gets a little bonus, because, you know, I'm paying a little bit, probably too much for the piece, just because of what I can do with it. So it's everybody wins, nobody loses.
And if I may, through the chair, I'll have to relook at the site plan, but as we were most recently looking at it, literally overlays with this. I don't believe it's over 2 acres, and that site plan approved, or was a long time ago. I don't think that was a 2-acre site in IP. For the exact same building. And here, this would even make it even more sense. It does make more sense. The parcel to the east, that's incorporated with this parcel in the site plan. It's already zoned IP, so we're not asking for any variance there tonight, right? That's just over half an acre zoned IP. That's gonna be brought in. They'll probably merge the parcels, because once you have the 2 site plans, they're not gonna have 2 parcels. So really, we're bringing the parcels more into conformity, making it closer to match the ordinance when you're actually developing the site. The township approved a site, and I'll verify in 1 minute, less than 2 acres is the exact same one up the street. We're just trying to bring this piece into conformity with what's in the master plan, what's in the zoning ordinance. The building under IP can meet the setbacks for the uses, and there's not one office user that, you know, is coming for the property. It's this use that we're, you know, requesting.
Okay, help me make sure that I'm clear. You're zoned OP now. You have told me that Mr. Malash is not interested in doing anything that would occupy an OP zoning.
Correct.
So essentially, he is asking to do something different, and that is what requires the variance that you're asking for tonight.
Correct, yeah.
We don't deal in use variances, which is something different on a piece of property. We deal in dimensional variances.
Sure.
Sometimes they fall together, but it sounds to me that this is, and I mean no disrespect, but kind of a sideways look to get a use variance when that is not this board's purview.
I would like to keep in the context then of directly of the variance request for the less than 3/4 an acre for a parcel zone industrial park, when there's already parcel zone industrial park and almost developed as such that are around 2 acres or under. And we've been approved for this exact use in IP on a parcel that's less than 2 acres. It seems selective that we don't get it over here.
I can't speak for the board member that we have rep and our planning commission member. They may have heard or seen something to do with those, but those pieces of property have never come before this board, never. Now, you're telling me that that's what's there, so that's what's there. But how it got there, why it got there, have absolutely no way to know, and it's not this board's responsibility.
Yes, and I pulled the map all the way back to 84, and it was OP at that time.
40 years it's been that way now.
Yeah, and it goes back further, but it was like a different, GB and like this, it was a different business in the 60s from what the maps show in our old system.
For clarification of the applicant, where their current, they brought it up. They're trying to compare this site to their present site. Now, if I'm correct, your present site that you have is zoned IP, is that correct? You meet the zoning criteria for which your existing facility is right now, right? It has to be IP.
Yeah, where we're at Peninsula, my actual grow, yeah, that is IP, right?
I mean, you couldn't put that in there unless it was IP. Was it IP prior to you, or did you have to get a zoning change on that one too? You butt right up to the landfill, right?
Yeah, we were, yeah, we,
And the landfill, that whole area there is IP, right?
it was OP. And it was OP, and we did switch it to IP.
The landfill was, or your property?
My property,
When did you have that rezoned?
6 years ago.
Okay, I'm just curious. But you never came to this body for that. This body had no say
I've
on
been to
it.
so many township meetings, I don't really remember. I've been to an awful lot of them.
I know, Brian, I know.
Zoning Board of Appeals and
I
Planning
know.
Commission meetings.
It
I
gets
mean, you guys have
confusing.
seen me around.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't remember, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. But I'm trying to compare apples to apples and, you know, and like you, orange to oranges. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But my concern is that why they have IP zoning is it requires additional setbacks. And OP, to meet that criteria, is not, is less setback for the surrounding area. That's basically how the, you know, how they do all your ordinance stuff for and Brian, you know, all your residential and your multiples. We all know how that works. It's all different set criteria. So in here, what they're requesting is that you, for variance to meet the other criteria than what it currently is. I'm just trying to stay focused on the, you know, we can't rule on the uses and what happened over here, what happened over there. I'm looking strictly at what's right before us right now on this one parcel that we have to make a decision on for the applicant. That's where I'm coming from.
Is it something maybe that can be done in conjunction with combining of the parcels? Because now suddenly you're only looking at, what, a .2 acre variance?
That's out of our review there, you know, we can't, yeah. That's in another,
Yeah, you would be looking at a .18 variance at that point in time, but that's still a use variance, not a,
but he would have to, whatever the process is to combine these two lots
Correct.
together. But you're combining an OP and an IP, and I don't think you can do that. I don't know, that's for the planning and
that's for
zoning
the planning,
department.
yeah, that's not ours.
Or Dave maybe know, I don't know.
I'm not gonna answer that.
Yeah, that's planning and zoning.
100% sure, I'd have to ask Tammy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I just know the lot size in an IP
Exactly,
is
exactly.
2 acres.
She's always the go-to.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But that's a discussion for another time, you know, exactly. Ideally, if you could do that, it'd be perfect, you know.
Hey, you're
ideally.
right, I do not believe we can
No,
find two different.
You can, there can be
Two zoning.
separate zoning on parcels and
Can there
developments, yeah, just
but
depends.
you'd have to go through that whole process.
I mean, technically, it's showing that little drive adjacent to us is zoned industrial.
I'm all set with it.
So, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Danaskis, just from the in your opening narrative, you talked about the use that your client wanted to use the space for office space. And then in the process of presenting, you switched it over to tool and die shops. And so, is that a secondary use or primary is going to be office space? That's what I'm.
So I'm sorry, the owner of the property is not my client. My client's the applicant, and we were just trying to, I don't want to get caught up in the use. I'll talk just directly to the variance for the 2 acres, that's fine. I was just giving you full context. And that's why we're here. The applicant, his use is an IP use, and it's permitted. It's a medical marijuana provisioning center and marijuana retailer is the ultimate plan for what he would like to do here. Other things, approvals have to happen. But first, one of the requirements for that facility has to be zoned IP.
No, I understand those.
So that's full context. So now let's look at just the variance we're requesting, a deviation from the 2 acre, that was an ordinance that was written long time ago. When you're developing a whole industrial park, they're saying start with at least 20 acres, then chop it up in 2 acre parcels. This is not part of industrial park. It's on a main road. There's plenty of other IP parcels that are under 2 acres. We're asking for a variance from the 2 acre strict requirement of IP down to the 1.7 that this parcel is currently zoned. That is very unique in that there's other parcels that are zoned IP up and down the corridor, and that this was not self-created by the applicant.
Based on what you just said, that the use for the office, or the space itself, the use for the property, aside from what's been revealed here tonight, you're saying it can't be used for OP?
My client cannot use that for OP.
Okay. it's, okay.
Mr. Walker.
You said your client is not gonna do OP, but there's no reason someone else can't do OP there, is there? Is there something unique about the property itself that would
Yeah.
prohibit someone from putting office and professional?
I mean, it was developed as a bank, which is a special use and more keen to what's allowed in IP and how it's laid out. I mean, now we're getting into, we're talking about the physical structure, because also you look at the new developments, this lines up with it. So the setbacks and everything else, you have a huge industrial park, and the frontage, everything lines up exactly with it. So I think our building is really pretty uniform with all the IP around it. And then, no, I mean, I think it's a little subjective, because pick any use, you can make an argument that there's a use for office right now, a 5-story one in Lake Orion. No one's building a 5-story office or building any office right now in Orion.
Are you suggesting that's a reason enough for a conditional zoning, rezoning?
Well, I'm a little confused, because now we're talking use. You said we shouldn't, no one says that we shouldn't talk use. I'm just trying to get to the, I guess I don't know which way to answer.
And also, when you were talking about it lining up, the front yard setbacks are both the same for IP and OP.
Well, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah, but it doesn't, so again, going back,
So my request is for, so you have a parcel immediately adjacent to me that's a third of the size, and that's IP, and that's fine, but we don't get it because we don't want to talk about all the other things, just the variance we're requesting, IP under 2 acres. There's a bunch of those and parcels that recently semi-developed for that. We propose something less than 2 acres on IP. It's been approved before, but it doesn't make sense for this one?
The point of fact is that Mr. Goodlow has gone back to, did you say 84, Dave?
Yeah.
And it has been zoned OP since 1984. That's 40 years. So we don't know if it was ever zoned IP. From what we've been able to figure out, it has been zoned OP for 40 years.
And so that's why in the master plan says, and they want it to be IP, and we're here tonight to make it IP through this variance one step forward. That's how the evolution happens. Everything else around it is zoned IP. It was developed as a bank way long ago. The seller misrepresented me, told me he got it rezoned for, tax purposes. Okay, if he didn't. None of the facts change. All the urban around's been developed as IP, even the 0.5 acres around it. Every single other parcel has. Now we're trying to bring it in conformity with the master plan.
We were told that. I mean, he did say, I thought he switched.
I don't doubt that he told you that.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that at all. I can only go by what the facts that we've been able to verify, If he was standing here, he could walk up here and say, no, I rezoned it, and then I would ask him for the paperwork going, please show me. Our system goes back to 84. We know it's OP based on the system for 40 years. So.
And now is the chance to correct it, to bring it in line with every single parcel around it.
What's your practical difficulty?
That the parcel adjacent to us is already zoned IP. We're gonna use that parcel with this parcel that's 2 times as large. That's my practical difficulty.
If you can join, okay,
We meet setback, we can easily combine that. That meets our
cannot-
requirements for combination.
currently, right now, you can't join the 2 properties together because they're zoned separate. One's OP and IP. You can't do that right now, right?
No, we're just not here tonight before you because the adjacent parcel is already zoned that way. We're gonna use it as part of our site development, but we don't have, it's already zoned IP. So, and you can zone, you can do a development with 2 parcels on it, and you can have split zoning. Normally, it's commercial up front, residential in the back, or PUD as you guys know, but anyways. So the only reason why it's not more is because we already have the one little parcel is already zoned correctly for us. That's why we only have the request for the remaining 1.27 parcel. If that answers your question, hopefully. So we're developing all IP
I
on 2
understand what you're
parcels.
saying. But as of right now, today, if you went in, said, I want to join these 2 parcels together, would you be denied?
You can do a parcel, no.
Would you?
Underlining zoning does not affect.
You can
one
take an
iota.
OP and combine an IP without, you could pull a permit tomorrow and build a building.
Well,
Not why you're here tonight, because-
Parcel combinations and split depend on setbacks and lot minimums, dis ratios. We're bringing this more into conformity. You can have split zoning, don't confuse them.
I
You
got-
can have
I
split
understand.
zoning on
I
properties,
understand.
but this makes it more conforming. The township, a planner, assessor, everyone would love those combinations.
You just said to combine this, you'd have to meet the setback requirements. I thought I heard you say something about the
Okay,
setback.
just look at the parcel
I'm not talking
here.
about the split.
This is zoned industrial, this is
Yep.
all IP. It's
Right.
not a problem whatsoever to do that.
The problem is, the way the ordinance is, that OP property does not meet, we're not talking about that side IP. That's beyond the point. We don't know how that ever happened. It's not our preview right now to combine these properties. The reason it's OP, it doesn't meet the criteria of the IP district. It's less than 2 acres. And in their variance, they're requesting the variance to rezone back to IP with the variance, correct?
We want to.
Isn't your variance?
Variance request, because the letter of the law, when this was developed for industrial parks, saying, hey, get an acre of over 20 acres, and then chop them up into 2-acre minimum parcels. That's what this all stems from. Now the area's all been developed. This was a holdout of OP, so we're trying to make it IP, just like the property to the east. And then also to your point, if that map, I'm not sure it's correct or not, but it shows the parcel, not my IP parcel, the parcel to the west is zone industrial, and it's part of that huge RJ, I'm probably butchering RJ Automotive development right there. So that's the exact same thing you're talking about on our parcel. They just developed that.
The reason this is not zoned IP with the other, because it's 3/4 of an acre short of what's required for 2 acres. You know, it's 0.74. I'm gonna say 3/4.
Yeah.
Look, let's get, we're gonna hassle over 1/10 of a piece of property. So it lacks that criteria, and that's why we're here tonight, for the variance.
Maybe then the hardship can be that we want to,
There's no hardship,
no hardship, let's say,
practical difficulty.
but to make it easier, we would like to make this IP, we could combine the parcels, and then I could move the dispensary license over there. However, if you want, you're not gonna call it a hardship, but make the property conform, it would be closer to 2 acres. You could make a conditional approval upon that if we combine the parcels, if we can get it, and if we can get that license on there, and if we don't, then, well, it's all a moot point anyway.
What concerns me, and you've seen all the other cases we had here tonight, is that this one parcel, out of all, how that's all zoned, we're talking master planning, for 40 years has been zoned OP, and when there was an existing OP bank on there. Now, it met the criteria for 40 years. Because they stayed for 40 years, we've gone back to 84, so.
Probably, well, I'll admit, it's not probably, it's a very simplistic view of this. It is zoned OP. There are permitted uses for that OP. And if your client were interested in those, he wouldn't be here, you wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't be here. So the way the property sits, it can be used.
I respectfully disagree, Chairman. I mean, you could use that for any case then. Oh, well, there's an abandoned, restaurant. You can use a restaurant. Well, no one's coming as a restaurant. I want to put a gym in there. Well, you could, I don't think that's very fair assessment of saying, well, someone could use it.
You don't believe someone could?
I think someone could use anything with a little creativity. That's not our request. That's not bringing conformity with the master plan, with the goals of the township ordinance. I think what Mr. Malash proposed on having the variance request granted contingent on us combining the two parcels, then our variance is only very minuscule. Again, we could have done that on the front end, but it's already zoned that, right? So I guess, I don't even know if the township know how to address that. If we were to combine them, then say, okay, I want to rezone portion of it, or I guess I need a variance for a portion of my property to me. I guess I just don't know how you would treat it, but we're trying to make it more in conformity with what your zoning ordinances are and allow for.
Mr. Walker?
I still haven't heard the reason, there's no reason that this OP can't be used for a permitted purpose. It seems like there are, according to the ordinances, 10, 20, 30 permitted purposes under this OP that would go right in there. And I think that's your hurdle that you've got to conquer, that there isn't one, but there are. They're everywhere.
There's
My
no,
view anyway.
there's no bank knocking on the door, that's why it closed. All the banks are going small footprint. Sure, I guess you could say anyone could put an office, they could put one in the form of McDonald's too. You could open an office or an office professional. I mean, I don't think that's fair to say, we can lease the space can be used when you're in a sea of industrial. It's like counterintuitive to all the planning and zoning, like you want to bring things more conform, it's like, oh no, but look, you could still use this as a house. Exactly, that's the existing nonconformity grandfathering situation, exactly what we have here. It was a credit union for 40 years, industrial developed all around it, it's existing nonconformity. Normally, all planning, zoning, you want to bring it in conformity, oh, someone's going to do that? Great, let's bring it into IP just like your master plan and everything else wants. Oh wait, you can use it as IP.
It's not existing nonconformity currently, because it conforms with the OP.
Yeah, but it's spot zoning, I think that fits the definition of it. You look at the map, and it's the only zoning in there.
It wouldn't classify as spot zoning if it itself had not been rezoned. Everything around it was rezoned.
It's still spot zone, either which way it's created firsthand or after the fact, it doesn't change the fact of what it still is.
Okay? I'll take your word for it.
It's true, it was built around it. It was all built around to IP, and so you're left with the spot zoning. That's exactly what spot zoning typically is, not creating on the front end, which it could be.
Gentlemen, have any ideas?
Can I ask one other question?
Please.
I mean, I've given you our reasons for doing it. I think there's good ones. Increase people selling the property to us, got more money for it. Township's gonna get a lot more money in taxes. We can move a dispensary license. We went out a little bit for that. And we're gonna make, that area, because it's sort of falling apart right now. We're gonna beautify the building and make it nicer for the township. There's the wins. What are the downsides of turning it to IP when looks like all around it, it is IP, and the lot that we're buying with it is also IP, and we can combine them? I just don't see what the downside is.
This board, we see it a lot. We have a relatively narrow focus. And people come to us wanting us to do anything. If they perceive there's a problem, they'll fix it. It says Board of Appeals. Well, it falls outside our purview. And when you have a piece of property that, as Mr. Walker mentioned earlier, is perfectly capable of being used for a permitted purpose as it's zoned, that falls, in my opinion, outside our focus. So perhaps you need to be in another place here in this building. I wouldn't go out and say where that should be, because I would just be talking, but I'm thinking that you're outside our lines.
I believe the reason they sent us here, though, is if it was 2 acres, that would have happened already. They sent us here because it's under 2 acres. And that's why we're at you. What is the downside of turning it, barring no marketable, nothing that we're doing there, what is the downside of giving us conditional rezoning that, hey, this would be fine because it's IP all around it. There's no one that's gonna be, there's no detriment to anyone around it, changing it to IP. What is the detriment? That's what they're looking for. They're looking for direction from you guys. Where's the downside in this from turning it from OP to IP? Where's that? That's why they sent us to you guys.
You may think this is Jesus and the 12 apostles at the Last Supper up here, but we're not. The Zoning Board of Appeals.
Yes.
We have zoning ordinances, there are descriptions, there are OPs, there are IPs, there are R1s, there's R3s, there's multifamilies, and that's what we're charged with.
Right.
If you want it changed, you've got to convince us that somehow in that ordinance, you have satisfied that. The questions and answers I've heard today don't satisfy me for it. It's not about how much money anybody can make at that site, whether you or someone else. That's not my concern. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about interpreting that ordinance. Like I did for the sign thing, it's my best shot. And I'm not here, I don't have an axe to grind. I don't like anybody, actually I like everybody. Don't dislike anybody. Don't dislike Burger King. I don't dislike you. I don't dislike Mr. Danaskis. But this, I'm interpreting the ordinance as I see it.
And if I may, through the chair, so I think we got away from the request, because this meets it by the letter through your ordinance and your application. Let's just go through those real quick. Describe how the request results from special or unique circumstances particulars of this property and not applicable to the surrounding properties. Again, adjacent is industrial, IP only 0.5, IP behind us, and develop as such around there. I think that hits it nail on the head. If the applicant is granted, please explain how the variance will not be material detrimental to the public health, safety, welfare of the other properties in the immediate area. We're taking over a parcel, so the adjacent one is going to be brought in more conformity, even better than trying to develop that strip little one. So that's much better public health, safety, and welfare to eliminate one curb cut and combine two parcels and bring in conformity with the properties that are around it. You can't, the argument, the public health, safety, and welfare, to combine one small parcel, three drives down to 2 drives versus 1, I mean, it hits it nail on the head. I don't think there's any dispute that the public health, safety, and welfare is increased by making it more conforming with your master plan, making the parcel more in line with your requirements that are there. I don't think that deviates from whatsoever. Explain how the request is not inconsistent with other properties in the immediate area. Cite examples. Example A, parcel to the east, 0.054 acres, already zoned IP. That's what you asked for, and that's right there, right? Okay. So, describe any practical difficulties that are not self-described. We are not the market. We can't say OP, yes, no, this or that. We're not setting the market, right? We're trying to combine these parcels and make it better.
Mr. Kirby.
You can go back and look at all the meetings that I've been part of. I have harped on this from the first meeting I sat here. Practical difficulty that is not self-created. I don't, and this is just my opinion, I do not see a practical difficulty that is not self-created. There are other IP parcels that you said it, there's a ton of IP parcels around the area. There are several IP parcels that are 2 acres. You can find an IP parcel that is already zoned, that already has a 2-acre requirement, and go there.
No, there's not that front, I'm sorry, there's not in that front, the Silver Bell Road.
The location's not my concern. Sorry, just to be blunt, the location's not my concern. My concern is, are there other parcels that are zoned appropriately for what you need? Yes, there are other parcels that are zoned appropriately for what you need. They may not be in the location you want. They may not be in the location that is desirable for you. But I don't see a practical difficulty that is not self-created by coming in and asking us to do a rezoning of this thing, of this parcel. That is you coming to us and saying, we want this because it's best for our business. That's a self-created issue in my opinion only.
And to that, we didn't develop all the parcels
Can I
around
say
your
one
IP.
thing?
Sure.
Just- There's not another IP that fits within the cannabis law. There is none. I know that's, again, self-created or whatever you want to call it, but there's nothing, no matter what, if there's going to be any more dispensaries in the area, there's going to have to be changes or whatever, because that's.
Again, you're back into a use issue. We don't rule on use. We rule on zoning.
Gentlemen, do you have anything additional for these folks? I can't think of anything that hasn't been expressed from this end or that end, personally. But if you got any ideas, Mr. Cook?
No, I'm
I think you gentlemen see how we're jammed up. I don't think you see a way to unjam us. And there may not be one.
You don't like the combining, caveat, that, it's contingent on combining the parcels, then the variance is very minimal?
That does not, again, that does not fit through the door to this room. We're very narrow.
But, no, because our variance request, say the parcels are combined, our variance request is much more minuscule in the overall 2-acre requirement that we're up against, right? So by you saying, I think that goes part and parcel with it, right? Of saying, okay, we'll grant this request if you combine the two parcels. Because then you're saying, okay, we got you a lot closer to the 2-acre parcel, that's the letter of the ordinance, because that's what we're really just disputing right here. The ordinance has developed, you're developing industrial park, make them 2 acres or more. That's the variance we're asking from. That's what we're asking for, that's it. That's the variance, that's the only thing, it's not the use, it's saying, hey, in your developing industrial park, you start with 20 acres and then 2. You want to deviate from that, you need a variance or something else. That's what we're requesting.
Which is why we're here.
Is-
Really, the .18 variance is why we're here.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Is this property unique? Is there a size or shape of this parcel that makes this property unique, or is this, it differs from the others neighboring?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I mean, you look at how the, kind of been gerrymandered around it with the 2 large developments immediately adjacent to it. And I don't know the history why they left that one parcel industrial, maybe just easier as a parking lot, so why rezone is, if I had to take a total guess. But yeah, behind us we can't expand to the back, you can't pick up more parcel because there's a retention pond. We had tried that, FedEx doesn't really need it, site calculations they do. So there's no real area to go other than this little parcel to the east that we're trying to make it in conformity and help everybody. That's the only way to go. And so,
Make it conforming, it would be non-conforming for what is required in a IP. It requires a minimum of 2 acres.
but if we pick up a .554
That's out of that's separate. We're not down there. I'm looking at this parcel right here.
Yep.
This parcel ID 0934300-010. I'm not looking at the side parcel there. I'm not looking at the back. I'm focused strictly on the one variance looking at us right here. Does it meet the criteria? And you're requesting 0.74 acre variance, which is less than what is required in the IP of 2 acres. To make it in simple layman terms, it's like 3/4 of an acre short of meeting the requirements of a 2 acre in an IP. That's all I'm strictly focused on here. I don't want to talk about what's beside my property. I don't want to talk about what's beside, around.
So to that
Am I going to, sir?
sorry,
My decision is made on, is there a practical difficulty that this property's been zoned OP for over 40 years, and there's an existing bank used to operate out of there? Does that criteria change for me of why this should go into IP, this variance? I don't see the practical difficulty. That's my opinion.
We may be approaching the time to put together a motion. I mean, we're certainly free to talk some more if anybody believes that that'll be helpful.
through the chair.
Please.
One thought, so just consideration, so look at the other industrial parks near Liberty Park. I think if someone were to bring an industrial park today, it's called 21 acres, meets the 20, and they have 2 oddly sharp parcels that are under 2 acres, call it an acre, and they can fit a building up front here and they develop it. I don't think this, I don't speak for you, I don't think that's a problem, right? If it meets the setbacks, it's real, I should have brought the data on the history of this. This is just how industrial parks used to be developed, right? I don't think that if someone came with a new development today for the same request, that it would be such a difficulty from this board if I can put an industrial building in an industrial park that meets the requirements. So I think it's a little lost in context of how we're acting for it. If you want to take a look back, take a look at the use, okay, stop. Just look at Liberty Park. Look at their one up front. If someone found out they couldn't, because there's more wetlands, you're not gonna allow them to make a parcel in Liberty Park that's under 2 acres? Does anyone really, is it?
That would be zoning, that would be the building commission who sets that up, not us. We
Well, no, I'm
don't,
saying if I was developing a park and I had a parcel in there, I'd have to come to you guys, or I couldn't build that parcel within my park. It'd be the same request, same exact request. It's under 2 acres and it's zoned IP. I can't carve that parcel up.
I would say that, Dave, under today's conditions, we wouldn't approve the site plan if they couldn't meet the requirements, correct?
Yeah, I would just imagine so, I'm catching up, but yeah, I mean, you gotta meet the requirements of the zoning.
So if somebody wanted to build a new industrial park and they couldn't meet the zoning requirements, they wouldn't get a site plan approval. Now, and obviously, we're dealing with something from, I don't know when this area was developed, but obviously prior to 1984. So we're dealing with different changes that time has occurred. But, you know, under today's rules and with the improvements in the building and zoning commissions and everything else, you wouldn't get a site approval.
No, we come for a variance, same thing.
You could come, at that point, you could come for a variance prior to your site approval, and then we would hear that case based on its merits. This case, we're seeing a 40-year history where it's been zoned one way. It does not meet the requirements now. Can something go in there that can still fit the zoning that's there? And what is again, I'm going to go back to my big thing, the practical difficulty. Show me the practical difficulty, and I'll be more than happy to make a motion in your favor.
That we're trying to combine the parcel next to it to make it more conform with the zoning ordinance, but my difficulty is I can't help the township make it more conform with your master plan because of this 2-acre requirement when you're in context when you're developing industrial park. That is a very real practical difficulty. We're not developing a new industrial park. We don't have the liberty to buy any other land around except for this one to the east, which then helps the township overall. You're being too narrow focused in the sense that you have a parcel that's already .05, which is required in your requirements, asking examples. It's right next door. There's our example. And we're trying to bring those together and make it better for everyone. I think that's a real big practical difficulty and a real benefit to the township.
I believe when these guys purchased this parcel, I'm from Lake Orion, that piece was for sale for a long time before they bought it. And they bought it for, you can look up the records, I think it was less than $500,000, maybe less than that, maybe it was cheap. And the reason was because it was for sale for an awful long time. And that I just know from living here my whole life. A lot of you guys saw that early 2000 or something, and it was for sale for $300,000. These guys bought it, so I don't know how that varies on anything, but I don't know what these guys are gonna do with this place if we don't buy it. They're gonna be in here coming to you for some kind of change, turn it to GB2, or they're gonna want something. I don't think it's gonna sell the place, I don't see it. Even if you guys don't approve me, that's just how I think.
we've got a member crafting an ordinance, motion perhaps? So we'll give them adequate time.
These are difficult decisions to make. These really get complicated. And we know each other, And there's nothing proof, we know that for a fact. It's just, sometimes they are really difficult.
As you saw with the last one I tried to make.
Yes.
In the matter of ZBA AB 2024-15, Brian Malash, 1465 Brown Road, Sidwell 0934-300-010. I would move that the applicant's request for one variance from the zoning ordinance number 78, Article 28, Section 18.04, Number 1, a .74 acre variance from the minimum lot area for each use within an industrial park of 2 acres for a parcel to be 1.26 acres zoned IP be denied for the plans date stamped received April 12th, 2024, because the petitioner did not demonstrate the following standards for variance have been met in this case, in that they set forth facts which show that in this case, number one, the petitioner did not show practical difficulty due to the fact that the present structure and zoning as it is, they've not demonstrated that this is not a self-created practical difficulty. They haven't been able to demonstrate that because it is zoned currently OP. The following are not exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved that do not generally apply to other properties in the same district or zone. Again, that's it. The property has been zoned for 40 years and used as an office space within that time period. Again, looking at the history on that for at least 40 years, since 1984. The variance is not necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right posed by other properties in the same zone or vicinity based upon the following fact. Again, the properties in the area that are zoned IP are used for those uses, and this property is zoned OP and it is readily available to be used for that use of OP. The granting of the variance or modification will be materially detrimental to the public welfare or materially injurious to the property or to improvements in such zone or district in which the property is located based upon the following fact. Again, there is the request, again, for the space itself being OP is, again, self-created. We haven't been able, there's not been a practical difficulty that has been shared with the board.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Cook, supported by Mr. Kirby. Do we,
Question.
we're going to ask if we have any other
I
questions.
believe there's just a brief tip, Tony. I thought when you said zoning ordinance 78 article, I thought you said article 28. It's article 18, section 18.04.
Yes.
I thought I heard 28.
Okay, if I said, I would accept the correction if that's
Just
what I
a
said. Yep, thank you, sir. Article 18, I accept that, yes.
Have a motion on the floor by Mr. Cook, supported by Mr. Kirby. Do we have anything additional by the board?
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
I would
Walker.
suggest that the motion maker include that there was no showing of any unique circumstances of physical characteristics of this land that would require a zoning change as requested.
I'll accept that amendment.
Seconded.
I will accept as well.
We have a motion by Mr. Cook, supported by Mr. Kirby with an amendment. Anything additional by the board? We're good? Mr. Cook?
Well, this is just,
Now's the time.
there is a note in here also that talks about future land use from the master plan and designates this property as research and light development on future land use maps.
Again, we have the motion on the floor with support and amendment. Anything additional by the board?
Question on it is, the motion is to approve or deny?
To deny.
Okay, I was want to make sure, a yes means no then for the,
Please call the roll.
Tony Cook,
Yes.
Tony Kirby,
Yes.
Don Walker,
Yes.
Mike Flood,
yes.
Dan Durham.
Yes, the request has been denied. Nice guys.
Thank you for your deliberation.
If you can come back in a different, with something different, come back. I mean, glad to have you. But I think you realize our limitations.
Exactly. Always.
You might not appreciate it, but I think you understand it.
Oh, we appreciate deliberation, certainly. Yes, thank you.
And I couldn't have asked for better attitudes from the two of you. Sometimes people get nasty when things don't fall right into their lap. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. Justin.
All right, where are we? Here we are. No public left, so we'll gloss right over public comment. Mr. Cook has something for us?
You have a report from the training that some of us attended, it was on April 29th. It was provided by the Michigan Association of Planning, also known as, our Planning and Zoning, so this workshop, it was on April 29th. Workshop was organized by MAP as well as Oakland County and aimed to enhance knowledge related to planning and zoning issues within communities. Attendees gained insight into various topics, including public hearing procedures, site plan review, comprehensive plan, zoning, ordinance, and practical difficulty determinations. The program catered to both new and seasoned planning commissioners and zoning board members, offering valuable information and acting as a refresher for experienced officials. The presenter was Adam Young, who is an AICP with Wade Trim, and then the zoning board members that were in attendance included Mr. Flood, Mr. Walker, and myself, Tony Cook. Overall, the training was informative and well executed. There was a total of 4 hours of instruction, along with the light dinner that was provided.
Thank you.
Nice report. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, sir.
Nice report.
All right.
Committee reports, any of the members have anything additional? Mr. Walker?
Just that the library sale next week has been canceled due to the fire.
Oh, yes.
Stay tuned for updates.
Any comment, member comment? Anybody have anything to say?
I've talked all I can talk tonight.
Well, I'll just say I thank the board because these weren't easy. The one that I thought was going to be the hardest really wasn't, the Burger King one. But we got there, and everything's done. With that, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're done. Thank you.